NERDSoul.
Why are you a black man in love?
Passion for the shit you love.
Welcome back once again to Black Together, A Walk in Her Shoes. I am Lady Lisa and I'm joined by Madam Buddaphlai. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right, so we are kind of going completely away from our plan that we have for the show today because there is some other foolishness and activity that we want to discuss today. Hopefully, most of you know about what is happening at our Capitol in Washington, D.C. today. And so that is what we're going to be discussing. Kind of, if you can, Madam Buddaphlai, give everybody a rundown of exactly what is happening. And because you said you've been kind of watching this from the start. So if you can, give everybody a rundown of what has occurred.
Yes. So first, because I'm sure the people will be hearing this on Friday, so we pre-record our episode. So today is Wednesday. Um, Earlier today, Vice President Mike Pence was basically certifying the electoral votes from each of the states, and so each state's representative has to basically, read this statement saying, hey, we're the state of Alabama. We certify that, this particular candidate won the votes in our state. Our state holds this many electoral votes. So that many votes goes to said candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And so then at that point, um, the vice president asks, is there anybody who opposes this position?
Mm-hmm.
So the first state that there was opposition for um, uh, Biden's votes was the state of Arizona. They went in alphabetical order. So the Republicans basically objected to Biden receiving credit for the electoral votes in Arizona. So at that point, once that happened, the whole process is put in a hold, and parties from both sides go into debate for a 2-hour session where basically the Republicans are saying this is why we believe that these votes aren't legitimate, and the Democrats dispute that. So once that 2-hour process happens, they have a vote and decide whether those votes are eligible or not.
Wow.
So this is the process that was happening today. So they had started the debate process for the state of Arizona. So my understanding, based on what they were saying, because the Democrats outnumber the Republicans, this is basically just a time waster, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. This is a stall tactic for the Republicans, and they pretty much said that they pretty much assumed that, for Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and I think there was one other state, that they're probably going to do the same thing where they object to Biden getting credit for those votes. So, like I said, this was the first point in that. At that time, um, there was unrest outside with the Trump protesters. And let me just back up a little bit, because earlier this morning, Trump addressed, first he had called all the people to Capitol Hill because this was going on. He had asked Mike Pence to basically use power that he doesn't have to basically basically declare the election, um, invalid, so to speak.
Wow.
Mike Pence was like, I can't do that. I don't have the authority to do that. The votes have been certified. I have to honor that.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump, being the gangster that he is, he goes out and speaks and says, hey, everybody, we have to fight. We will never concede the election. It's been stolen from us. All of this was this morning. Okay. So in I don't even know if I should speak on this yet or if I should wait till later. But he basically told these people that what was happening inside of Capitol Hill
Mm-hmm.
was basically that the election was being stolen from him. So we fast forward through this process. There's civil unrest. There's a barrier between the protesters and the Capitol building.
Mm-hmm.
They break through that fencing and they rush the Capitol. Windows were being broken, people running inside, total chaos. A woman ended up getting shot. There's been mixed reports on whether she was shot in the neck or the chest, but I actually saw a video of the shooting.
Wow.
And there are multiple police officers that have been injured, taken to the hospital. We saw scuffles with the police at different, areas. And they pretty much, there was like hundreds upon hundreds of people pouring into the Capitol with little to no resistance at all. So they were able to, some people were able to make it to the Senate floor, take selfies, go into different offices of senators and that type of thing. They were basically just able to roam free in the Capitol building with no consequence. And I was going back and forth between CNN and Fox News because I wanted to see what the difference in the reporting was.
Mm-hmm.
And Fox News's language was a little more delicate, but I was surprised that they actually said that this behavior was wrong, that it was unacceptable. But they were very gentle in their language.
Mm-hmm.
So
these people weren't called, thugs and terrorists and none of that?
No.
Interesting.
So that's basically where we are right now. We're currently recording, like I said, on Wednesday. The curfew has just gone into place for DC, and people are still in the streets. I do not see any National Guard. It's like, you can kind of remember the imagery during the, George Floyd protests and all of that kind of stuff. And there was like, a barricade between them and like the White House and all of that. And, there was this wall of like National Guardsmen between them and the people. There's none of that going on at this point. So.
And I don't even really know where to go and where to begin with this. I don't know, because I'm sitting here, watching this, and the thing is, I can't say that at this point, quite honestly, it's very rare that I'm shocked, by anything that is done that involves people that follow Trump. I'm kind of beyond being shocked, like, oh, I can't believe they did X, Y, and Z. Far beyond that. It's hard to, more than anything, it's hard to wrap my mind around the blatant hypocrisy. When there were protests for George Floyd and the many, many other Black people that have been murdered by the police. And we as Black folks out there protesting were met with, from day one, right? Almost before it starts, as soon as they know we about to march, we're met with National Guard. We're met with lines and, like you said, barricades and all of this stuff. And all we're doing is having a true protest. We're just marching. We're not going to even stand in front of any type of government building. Not even thinking about a government building. But y'all got, all of this, military and police and all these firearms and pepper spray and you name it, right? But when people actually break into and are on video breaking into the Capitol building, breaking glass, going inside, charging the police, and it's on freaking video. Mm-hmm. Sitting in people's offices, sitting inside of the rooms where they're supposed to be working right now, voting, mm-hmm. in camouflage. Mm-hmm. And nothing is being done. Nothing. Scaling the freaking building. These fools then bought out freaking bungee cords and scaling the building, climbing up. And all I'm hearing is, oh, this is, this has never been done before. This is, oh my gosh, this is new. And, what are they going to do? And are they going to disperse? What you mean? What do you mean? And then they show groups of police officers, I don't know, having donuts, having conversation. They're all clumped together. What y'all doing? Yeah. What are you doing? It just. Yeah. But then when we, as Black folks, want to talk about the disparity, at the least, in the justice system, mm-hmm. the injustice that we suffer, mm-hmm. we're looked at like, I don't understand what you mean. You have the same opportunities that we have, and you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Right. And again, I'm sitting here looking at it. The curfew is it's for you guys. It's I think about 6:11. Yeah. And the curfew was at 6, and they're still there, and nothing's being done. Mm-hmm. Okay, now what?
Yeah. I want to say this because, when we post this, we don't know who may hear this and what, their belief system is. I want to be clear in my position. I believe that Trump's supporters, just like anybody else, has every right to protest their grievances. That is part of their First Amendment right. It is protected by the Constitution. I don't have to agree with what it is that you're protesting, right, in order for me to acknowledge that you have that right to protest. Right. Where things go awry is when you go through a barricade, mm-hmm. when you storm the Capitol building, mm-hmm. when you're breaking windows, when you're behaving like a lynch mob, mm-hmm. When you become terrorists of this country, that's when it becomes a problem, because we can sugarcoat this all we want to because of who the perpetrators are, but this was an act of terrorism. Right. The president incited a riot against his own country.
Yeah.
That's what actually happened.
Yeah.
He actively participated in sedition on tape. That actually happened
Yeah.
today. And so, I just want to be clear, because it's really easy for people to kind of dismiss your point of view, or, anyone's point of view, by saying, left wing, right wing, liberal, conservative, just kind of brush off what a person is actually saying, when what they're saying could have some real weight and substance to it.
Yeah.
But they don't want to deal with whatever that is, and so they kind of put it under a blanket of, oh, you're just a liberal, or you're just a conservative. So I want to be clear.
Yeah.
I don't believe that anyone who riots should get a pass for being for participating in criminal activity.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand civil unrest.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the frustrations that come with different injustices and that type of thing that would influence a person's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Criminal activity is criminal activity. I don't care who it is.
Right.
So when you start destroying property, when you start trespassing, when you start, you know, doing things that are counterproductive to the overall objective of the protest, in theory,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes problematic. So, I started looking at, because I was watching on TV and I was looking online, and I wanted to see some of the commentary of Trump supporters, because I could remember what was being said through all of the protests during the whole George Floyd
Mm-hmm.
movement. And it was interesting to me, the justifications that were being made for the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
That no, they actually are peaceful, or, well, if they aren't peaceful, it's, Black Lives Matter did it. So, when the election is being stolen from us, we have the right to do it. And even, oh, that's not really Trump supporters. That's Antifa posing as Trump supporters, trying to make us look violent, because Trump supporters aren't violent. There were all there were all kinds of
Wow.
justifications. And, as I was reading it, I just thought, like, we have been fighting for so long for equality in a system that never intended at any point to include us. You know what I mean? We're trying to be recognized and have our pain validated and be deemed as human beings
Mm-hmm.
in a system that never intended that for us.
Yeah.
We're expecting to be treated humanely by the police, when the police were designed to violate us.
Yeah.
And until we start having these real conversations about the starting point, if we want to try to, it's like we want to glaze over it. Biden had his little press conference
Oh my
today, and he's
gosh.
like, well,
Yeah.
this isn't America. Actually, it is.
It is. They kill me with that statement that they make every time something crazy has happened, which has been often since
Right.
Trump has been in office. And they say, this is not America. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have just been able to cover it with a nice, pretty bow for all of this time. But once you let this fool into office, he has not even slowly, But he has, over time, just uncovered. He's been slowly, taking off that wrapping, taking off that bow, and revealing America for what it's always been.
Yeah.
And to say this is not America is just because you say it doesn't make it so.
Right.
And you can't keep having these things happen within your government that you built and say, well, this is not America. Then what is it then?
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, it's like, yeah, we have been, because there's really nothing else for us to do as African Americans but to keep fighting for equality, even though we know it's within a system that was built on corruption. But as African Americans, it's like, what else can we really do? At this time, there are a lot of ideas of what we can do to build differently for the future. But in the meantime, what do we do? And what's interesting is, like, not only was the system, including the police force, built to keep us as the lower class, but what's funny is that this is their system caving in on them. Because anytime you build something based upon hate and based upon having a group of people always be the winners, no matter what, eventually that's going to turn around on you. Because once you have discord within the group that's on the higher tier, somebody has to be bumped down. So then your system that you built starts to turn on itself. Or, as I quoted Malcolm X earlier, the chicken's coming home. And that's exactly what's happening now. This is absolute ridiculous. It feels like a movie that we've been watching today. And I'm sure some of these idiots are really, really excited because they probably feel like they're participating in something that's like a movie. Right. Because they are able to storm the Capitol, break windows, fight with police officers, force their way in, show one guy, I think they said it was Nancy Pelosi's office. He's sitting at her desk with his boots up.
Yeah.
In America.
Yeah.
This isn't a third world country.
Right.
This isn't Brazil. This isn't, some far off land in the middle of the desert. This is the quote, great United States of America.
Right. It's very true. I mean, I think that what people need to realize is that there are a lot of Trump supporters that are, the Confederate flag bearers. Mm-hmm. And they take pride in the act of the Confederacy, that whole movement. And so this is like homage to the ancestors that behaved this way. So you have that element that's in there that has to be recognized. Yeah. And then also something that I thought about when Biden was given his press conference, when he spoke on this not being America. This election was not the landslide that you would hope that it would be in light of all of Trump's shenanigans.
Yep.
We're talking about a difference of 4 or 5 million votes.
Yeah.
Okay. Even with there being record turnout, it was still only a difference of 4 or 5 million votes. This is after children are separated from their parents at the border, and there's reports of rape, molestation, all of this, and over 500 children are still separated from their parents. This is after a Muslim ban was declared. This is after he threw paper towels at Puerto Ricans after a hurricane. You know what I'm saying? This is after Charlottesville, when there's good people on both sides.
After he mocked a disabled reporter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is after him telling the police, to it's okay to rough up criminals a little bit, with all of the civil unrest that had been going on from Black people being murdered by the police.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of these things that have happened with different groups of minorities. The things that he said about women, and the allegations of sexual assault.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like 13 different cases of sexual assault pending against him.
Yeah.
Of course, he can't be prosecuted while he's president, but once he leaves that office, all of that stuff is going to be waiting at his feet. You know what I mean? Unless the women mysteriously disappear, like that Levy girl did when she was having that affair with that senator or whatever. But either way it goes, after countless acts of complete savagery, there was only a difference of 4 or 5 million votes. 4 or 5 million votes. This is the America that we live in.
Yeah.
This is a perfect depiction of the America that we live in. And this is what Black and brown people have been talking about for a very long time, that other groups refuse to pay attention to. And continuing to be in denial of it only means that in another 4 years, when there's another election cycle, that someone like Trump can get right back in here.
Absolutely.
And we're on auto repeat. We need to do a reality check and be honest about what is actually happening right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same show.
Yeah.
It's been the same show.
Yeah. Ever since Obama took office, these folks have been losing their natural minds. They really have. I mean, the United States took totally shifted in terms of overt racism, right? And it has been a poop show since then. And I honestly don't see anything turning it around, quite honestly.
Right.
Like, what can turn it around? Because I feel like once Obama was elected for 2 terms, racist, and we just have to admit there are more people that are racist in this country than we want to admit. And not just, it wouldn't matter if it's just, everyday people living out in the middle of, a cornfield. We're talking about people in power, people with money and access and power. And then they excite their followers. Once those people feel like, oh my gosh, the people that we have deemed for centuries to be the permanent lower class are actually gaining power. They're actually gaining access. They have, someone that they can look up to that's telling them they can do better, that they're making steps to actually do better, and believe that they are better. We can't have this. We've lost control of our country. We need to make America great again. We need to go back to the good old days.
Right.
And that's the
Right.
frame of mind I think they've been in ever since Obama took office. They don't care that he's not in office anymore, because in their mind, in their America, this is possible and we have to do something about it.
Right. Well, I don't necessarily disagree with the sentiment entirely of going back to days of old. And let me explain that. Because I think where the difference is that when the MAGA people say it, it appears to me that they're saying it from the point of reference of the subjugation of Black people.
Absolutely.
When I think about it, when I think about the state of the Black family prior to the Civil Rights Movement, when I think about the economic status, entrepreneurship, all of those things were in a better standing prior to the Civil Rights Movement. Our desire for equality has ruled us to the point that we have assimilated ourselves into producers of nothing. And so I think that we need to find ways to get back to the preservation of the Black family.
Absolutely.
And economic independence. I don't think that equality should be our driving force, because it has put us in a horrible position to negotiate. And because we believe that their water is colder, it's difficult to strategically organize in the way that we organized during the Civil Rights Movement to make a serious impact, because that truly is our power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're the largest group of consumers. Our power is in our dollars, regardless of who's in what poverty line and all of that kind of stuff. We're the biggest consumers. And so if we would unite long enough to effectively organize, then other things would happen. That's how the whole civil rights movement came about. It wasn't because someone said, hey, the way that we're treating this group of people is inhumane,
Right.
and now I have empathy and I don't think that we should do this. No, it was a financial decision, in the same way that the emancipation of slaves was a financial decision. It wasn't about, these are human beings and they shouldn't be treated that way. It was, my money funny.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and give them a little something, the illusion of equality, freedom, peace. Let me go ahead and break them off a little something so that my money's not funny. And so if we continue chasing the same thing, if we continue chasing equality, it's going to be more of the same. We have to be willing to change up the game so that we can flourish, because it's not just about existing.
Right. Or so just surviving.
Right. Anybody can do that. You know what I mean? I want my peace now. I want my joy now. I want my heaven now. Don't promise me all of this wonderfulness once I die.
Thank you.
Can't guarantee it to me.
Oh.
Can't nobody guarantee it to me. Yeah. That seems to me like a crock. And I know that might make a whole lot of people mad,
and that's
because
fine.
that's entering into the religious realm and stuff like that, and people get all bent out of shape. But it's interesting to me that the people who were beaten into a belief system hold tighter to it than the people that taught it and are willing to put off their happiness, comfort, peace, joy in their lifetime for a promise of something that they don't even have any proof of whether it's going, if they're
Right.
going to get it or not.
Right. Right. Because no one's saying that you don't have to sacrifice and suffer a few things and for a little bit to have better. We all know that's how life works. That's what grown-ups do. You know what I mean? When you become an adult, you have responsibilities, you know. You gotta work hard and, you know, give up doing some things for instant gratification to get, you know, things a little better later. But for us, like you said, our later is like another life. Like, you ain't fitting to have none of this lifetime. You'll have it next lifetime. Well, how we know that? And why? Why? Why does this whole long lifetime have to be that of suffering and sacrifice and turning the other cheek and being the better person and, you know, going high when they go low and all these different things? Because I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you on that. And I say that as a Christian. I just feel like it's so much of Christianity that is distorted and perverted for different people's purposes and for their agenda.
For sure.
Because, and not to go too much on a tangent, but people love to talk about the peaceful Jesus. No one wants to talk about the Jesus who went to the temple and turned over tables.
Right.
No one wants to talk about him.
That's real.
And we need to talk more about him.
That's real.
Just
That's
saying.
so real. In the same way, you know, with this whole conservative versus liberal, you know, evangelical versus, you know, whatever. You know, there's these talking points that these so-called evangelicals hold on to, which is it's two issues. It's homosexuality and it's abortion. And because of those two issues, they get to claim exclusive rights on the evangelical vote or whatever. But what does Jesus say about how you're supposed to treat the poor, the orphans, the widowed? You know what I mean? All of these things that would assist those people would be considered socialist programs.
Yeah. And
but
what's
socialism
funny,
is supposed to be like the worst thing that could ever happen. Now you
Yeah.
still collecting your social security,
Yeah.
which is a socialist program.
It says it in the name. You'll be insecure socially.
Right, but we're gonna completely forget about Jesus, what Jesus said about how you're supposed to treat people, how you're supposed to show up in society.
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna forget that, and we're gonna talk about two particular issues
that the two issues that God doesn't even make clear about what to do about in the Bible. He there, you cannot turn anywhere in the Bible and say, see, this is what he says. However, he tells you exactly what to do about orphans, widows, and the poor, and even immigrants. He tells you, it says it. But we're gonna skip over that. And we're going to suppose and tell you what he would do and what he thinks about the two things he don't make specific in the Bible.
Exactly.
Okay.
I tell you, it's, you know,
and
it's amazing.
And just so y'all know, again, there's no format to this today. We are two Black women just kind of having at it, you know, with the goings on of the United States. And we just thought it was appropriate, given that they just kind of going off willy-nilly at the Capitol today and doing whatever. Hey, it's that kind of day. We just gonna join in. You know why? Because it's America.
Yeah. Since they're peacefully protesting while breaking windows, fighting police, and shooting women in the neck.
and that woman died. I just saw it come on the screen. She died.
No, did she?
So it's come to another level now. She died.
Wow.
She died.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Like, regardless of what, you know what I'm saying? That's still loss of life. That's somebody's, family member. That's
Yep.
somebody's daughter, possibly mother, sister, friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know,
So
but
my
here's the
question
thing, though.
is, in terms of that, for the people that are in a position to tell her story, what are they going to say she died for?
Oh, they're going to make her seem like she was a freedom fighter. That's what they're going to do. That she's a hero to the whole movement. But something that I thought about through this whole situation. Now, in stand your ground states, you have the right to kill in the event that you believe that your property is in jeopardy. Okay, so states like Florida have the stand your ground law. So, and I'm not trying to trivialize this. I want people to consider. I want you to consider something kind of out of the box, but it's still the same point of reference. Okay, we have the Capitol building where people are breaking into windows and entering the building, right? They have bypassed a barrier and have stormed the Capitol building. Now, I don't think that DC is a stand your ground place. All I'm saying is the premise, right? Because in situations like Trayvon Martin and I can't think of the other brother's name right now, who was just standing in a yard or something and he got murdered. But in those types of cases, there was justification being made for these black men being murdered, as if any potential damage or theft of property or them being in an area that they shouldn't have warranted their death. And kind of in the same way with Arbery as well, because
Arbery.
right, because it was like he was supposedly looking in a window or something like that. So with that thinking, the same people who feel like it's a justifiable offense to shoot somebody, to murder somebody for trespassing, right? At least 1,000 people trespassed on the Capitol today.
Yeah.
At least 1,000.
Yeah.
So would their murder be justified? I'm curious. I'm not saying that anybody should kill anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't feel like murder is an acceptable option.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there are going to be people who on one side feel like it's okay to kill a black man because you're worried about stuff. But it's okay for these people to do this. And how come no police officers feared for their lives? I mean, they got images of senators laying on floors, hiding up under tables. They feared for their lives. So how come there was no police that feared for their lives, that felt like they needed to use excessive force? Just random thoughts.
Yeah.
Perhaps that went all over the road, but I'm just saying.
But then we're told we're always pulling the race card. Well, it doesn't have to always do with race. Let's talk about the issue at hand. No, because the issue at hand always comes back to race. Because y'all will move that goalpost across 50 football fields, whatever we talk about, because this, because that. But then when we flip it around and put a white person in the same situation, that goalpost will travel like I've never seen anything travel in my life.
Right.
And it all comes down.
They feel justified in storming the Capitol and saying it's a peaceful protest, but football players kneeling as the national anthem is unpatriotic
and disrespectful,
a disgrace to America. Like,
and
what?
skipping over the fact that he decided to kneel on one knee after having a conversation with a veteran about the best way to do this and not be disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
After having a one-on-one conversation with this white veteran who said, maybe you should just, kneel. And he's like, you know what? I can do that. Cool. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
White people say, hold my beer.
Right.
Hold my beer,
Yeah.
Negro.
Yeah. And that's exactly why, I'm done with the statement or question of, well, if they were black, blah blah blah, because we already know.
Yeah.
We already know that, like, there is no playing field when it
Right.
comes to us. We already
Yeah.
know that. So to me, the seeking equality is a waste of time. We need to do what we need to do to organize and build ourselves financially, spiritually, just mentally. We need to get ourselves together. We need to be in healing mode. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? To get ourselves together. Like, we all need to be in a cocoon so we can come out as a butterfly and
Absolutely.
focus on those things. How can we economically empower ourselves? How can we empower ourselves through education, through actual skills, skills that can translate into entrepreneurship? How can we um, have our own economic system, banking, stocks,
Yeah.
these types of things? This is what we need to be putting our energy into, because the equality fight is a pointless fight. It's pointless.
And it's sad to say, but I agree with you. And the other thing is we have to start first and foremost by going back to making our black men a necessary part of our society.
Mm-hmm.
Because as of right now, as a black society, we don't hold them as necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might agree, but think about it. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
We have gotten to this place of black women are in charge of everything. Black women are bosses. Black women are doing it. Black women, black women, black women. And of course, we all know that we're great. We know that as black women, you know, from the beginning of time, when there's something that needs to be done, we find a way and we do it. Period. That's not the point. That's not the point. We cannot rebuild black family without black men.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot rebuild an effective and successful black community without black men,
Right.
because we will remain broken. Our children will remain broken. We will remain broken as women. I don't care what nobody says about it. It has nothing to do with needing a man to survive and being pitiful. This is not what we're talking about. Again, we have proven as black women that we can survive without black men. But it's not about just surviving. It's about living, not existing, but living, having a
Yep.
prosperous life, being a prominent part of our community, building a community that is successful financially,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, mentally, spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. Because just because you can put food on the table does not mean that you are complete and whole emotionally and mentally. Your children sure enough ain't.
So true.
And mama, I don't care what you say, mamas, you are not mama and daddy.
It's true.
Because when
You
they
are
have
mama and
events
mama.
at your kid's school and it's a father-daughter dance, does she feel complete and whole because mama gonna go to the father-daughter dance with her?
Right.
No. She's
It's
gonna
real.
miss her daddy.
It's real.
Regardless of whether he's a good daddy or not. You picked him. But
It's
she's
real.
still gonna miss her daddy. Daddy could have been locked up, you know, as long as she's been alive. But she's gonna miss daddy, whether she knows who daddy is or not.
That's
She
real.
misses daddy. So
That's real.
I agree with you because this foolishness we're seeing today, if this don't show us nothing else, they have started to
Time to get it
implode
together.
upon themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so the thing of it is that when people start to feel desperate,
Yeah.
you know, just like, you know, you could watch an episode of National Geographic and you see the little gazelle and they're in desperation mode because here comes the lion. You know what I'm saying? And there's no telling where that gazelle is going to end up because it's in desperation mode. And usually when the haves are in desperation mode, the have-nots are the ones that feel it.
Absolutely.
And so we need to be focusing on the plank that's in our eye and getting ourselves together. And I wanted to, when you were talking earlier about the importance of the Black man, I wanted to mention that we were designed to be in relationship with one another. Whether you are coming from, you know, a religious ideology and you believe in creation, then you understand how we were created to be relational, or whether you're a believer in science. There have been plenty of studies done on newborn babies where one baby is given affection and another baby is withheld affection.
Absolutely.
And what happens to their health as a result. So whether you're coming from either perspective or a combination of both, we are relational people. And so to profess that you don't need to be in that relationship is denying creation and it's denying science. That's the first thing. Second thing, specifically in regards to Christianity, I just want to talk to the women for a second. If you are in a marriage or a relationship, or you operate when you are in a relationship, like the buck stops with you, you are the end all be all, you are the ruler of the house. If you operate like that and you profess that you are a Christian, then you have to understand that you don't have a true understanding of the word and the dynamic of the household. See, somewhere along the lines, Black women have found submission to be a cuss word because they don't understand the beauty of submission. Submission does not mean being violated or subjugated or anything like that. Submission is a gift from a woman to a man who is worthy of it. What you are expressing is that I trust your leadership. I trust your covering. I trust the power of who it is that you surrender to properly cover me.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion. It doesn't mean that you all can't come to different agreements about things or that your word doesn't hold any weight or anything like that. It's about understanding the dynamic and respecting a hierarchy. Miss Corporate America, when you go to work, you respect the hierarchy in that office.
Exactly.
You don't talk nasty to that supervisor or to the CEO. You make sure that you stay in line and all that neck rolling and gum popping halts when that supervisor comes into play. But when your husband in the room, you want to talk to him like he's nothing, but you a Christian. Like, come on now, because all of this ties in together. We can't have conversations about white supremacy and Trump and all of this reckless behavior and not talk about how we are taking power away from ourselves. There are plenty of things within this system that cut us off at the knees.
Yeah.
But when we do it to ourselves, that to me is even worse.
It is, because that's something that we actually have control over. We don't have control over this system that they have put together, but we do have control over what happens in our relationships, in our households, and in our communities. We absolutely do. I totally agree with you. And
so if they will stand against themselves, if they will stand against themselves and storm the Capitol building, okay, what do you think? Like, how could we possibly think that equality is a viable option? How?
Yeah. Because the thing is, could they? Is it possible for us to have been given equality by now? It's possible. It's not about can, it's about will. It's not about the ability, it's about will. Because when it comes down to it, the powers that be can make this whole justice system exactly whatever they want it to be, whatever they want it to be. They can change laws, they can change rules, they can change processes, they can change parties. I mean, they flip-flop and do acrobats like Ringling Brothers to make it whatever they want it to be at the time. Look at how these Republicans have flip-flopped now that they understand that Trump is on the way out and they still want a career. They treat Trump like who? I'm sorry, who? I'm sorry, do I know you, sir? So, and they will survive. That's the thing. They will continue on and have a career. And from this point forward, will say everything that is the opposite of what they were saying, I don't know, 6 months ago. And they will go on and survive because the system is built that way. So it's not a matter of could we have had equality by now? Of course we could. The will isn't there. The powers that be, the system as it's set up, we were built to be the permanent lower class. And when I say permanent, I mean for everybody's life.
All of them.
All of them.
That's one word, all of them.
ALOBEM. All of them.
It's real.
It's, I totally agree with what you're saying. And the thing is this. Going along with submission, when you said it's about giving our husbands a gift of allowing them to lead us and to cover us, what that means, women, is you have to pick someone who is a leader. You can't pick Joe Schmo off the street and say, okay, well, I'm just going to be with him and, he's going to run the household, and not say, is he a leader? What are his values? What is his character? What has he accomplished? What is he in the midst of accomplishing? You can't not look at all of that and then say, well, I'm going to put him in a position of being in charge of our household and taking care of me and our children. And then when you find out, later on that this brother ain't about nothing. I can't believe, oh my God, he's so trifling. Honey, he was trifling when you met him. He was trifling when you met him. But you was too busy looking at how fine he was. And the car that he drove that won't even pay for. Right?
A quarter tank of gas.
Huh?
With a quarter tank of gas.
Okay. This goes back to personal responsibility. Something that I love to say that I think I'm going to put on a t-shirt. Nobody is more responsible for you than you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
That's real.
That's not to
That's
take
real.
away the fact that some people will do some things that are wrong to you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they will. Some people are going to do some things that are wrong. Some people, it's just going to happen. But you have to sit back and say, what am I responsible for? So if you get with a man who ends up not paying child support, he ends up just not having a relationship with his children, he ends up taking the rent money and going out with the guys, that's totally on him. But if you allow it to continue to happen, that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
That's on you. Period. Because
100%.
once you know the behavior, it's up to you to decide, I'm going to take myself out of the equation because I'm responsible for me. I can't control what this man is or what he does. I have to take the L for not realizing what he is or what he does. I can go ahead and put that on me. Or it may be a case of he just gave you the okie doke. Look, that other representative did his job. He got me. But now that I know he got me, I am not going to stay for another minute. I'm packing up me and my children because he's not a leader. He's not a provider. But you can't continue to stay with somebody who does not lead and provide and complain because he's not leading and providing.
Right. Right. Or give a blanket statement about all black men and what
Girl.
all black men do because you chose wrong. I personally don't believe that, generally speaking, that someone can pull the wool over your eyes and you just be completely unaware of anything. Like, yeah, there are con artists out here, but we have something called intuition. You know what I mean? And I find it very hard to believe that there are more cases than not of people's spidey senses not tingling when they encounter somebody who's not on the up and up.
Right.
Now, you might decide to disregard or dishonor your spidey senses because you really care about this person, or you're trying to see the best in them, or you're focusing on potential, or whatever the case may be. But if you're actually paying attention, active attention to what somebody's doing, saying, how they're showing up in the world,
Mm-hmm.
your spidey senses are going to tingle if something ain't on the up and up.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And so there's enough responsibility for everybody to hold.
Absolutely.
Everybody, you
Absolutely.
know? So I just, I want to make sure that I say that because there are a lot of times when people find a way to make themselves the victim. You know what I mean? They don't have to take responsibility for any aspect of their lives. And
Right.
so it's just all of these people that are doing these things to them, and woe
Yeah.
is me. How did I get into this situation where all these people are doing these things to me? And I was guilty of that for many years in my life. You know what I mean? I can keep it 100 and say that that is where I was
Mm-hmm.
in my life. But being a victim is a decision, just like being a warrior is a decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so we have to take responsibility for ourselves. On another note, raising young black boys,
Mm-hmm.
you should be raising them to exhibit the characteristics of a man that you would surrender to, right?
Right.
He needs to have character. He needs to have integrity. He needs to be a protector, right? He needs to have self-respect. You letting your son act crazy, pants around his ankles, smoking weed, hanging on the corner, not getting an education, not, you struggling with bags of groceries, him and his little friends sitting there watching you struggle, ain't nobody getting up to help you. All of these things. You know what I mean? You will coddle that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's going to grow up and be somebody's man, somebody's trifling man,
Yep.
right? And this is what you have built because you decided that a Black man was necessary to oversee the household. See, all of this stuff is connected.
It is.
And the condition of our people, like, it's all connected. It's not just about white supremacy. You know
Right.
what I mean? And that's not to dismiss or diminish the
Yeah.
reality of
It's not
white
an either or,
supremacy.
it's a both and.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it's like we have to say that because we live in a society where, like, it's back to the subject at hand, people can storm the freaking Capitol, and instead of it being acknowledged that they are rioting, that
Mm-hmm.
they're not being peaceful, and they are participating in sedition, it becomes, well, Black Lives Matter did this and Antifa did that. No, 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 no. We're not going to other this situation. We're not going to make a scapegoat in this situation. We're going to deal with what's happening right now in the same way that you wanted situations dealt with Black Lives Matter and all of that kind of stuff, and you wanted that to be dealt with on its face, on its head. We need to do that with this too, in the same way. We need to be accountable across the board for our shortcomings within our community and find ways to make it better and stop making excuses for poor behavior,
Yeah.
because it's just not acceptable.
Because when it comes down to it, when it has to do with making a significant change in the Black community and Black family over generations, the government is not going to do anything to help us. The government is not coming to save us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know it. What we're in right now in terms of this pandemic, a lot of us are, looking for and happy about these stimulus checks, and of course they will be helpful to some people, more helpful to others than others, and that's great. But that's not going to do anything to help us generationally.
Right.
That'll help some people make it maybe another month for food. Sure ain't gonna help nobody with rent. I don't know anybody's rent it's gonna help. I mean, if it does, God bless you. But the thing is, it's not built to significantly help us. That's why do you think they fought so hard against giving us more?
Mm-hmm.
It's not built to help us significantly. It's built to help us just make it.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it. I mean, we can't have them totally fall apart. We got to still have some people to clean our homes and service food in restaurants. We can't completely break them down
Yeah.
because we are the permanent lower class.
Mm-hmm.
We have to let some of them make it a little bit higher, so they continue to have hope. I mean, the hope is futile for most of them, but
But see, if people were
so
paying attention, they
we
would
have to
see that.
figure out. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Um, if people were paying attention, they would realize that the real battle is the elite versus everybody else.
Thank you.
And race and religion and sexuality and all of these things are thrown in the mix to have us looking every other direction except at the elites. That's what
Yeah.
it's about. As long as we are scraping and surviving, then
Mm,
we're not paying attention to what's actually happening.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So there can be legislation that's passed that takes away our privacy, that takes away, our rights, that takes away our ability to provide for ourselves and for our families. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're being
Yeah.
distracted. Not to say that though that like there's real legitimate things within the system that have been created to make it harder for you when you are in certain subgroups. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All of that is real. So these are all battles within a war
Yeah.
where all of us are really in a pool together and we don't even realize it. If we would forget about the things that make us different and look to the elite and say, listen, this system is not working, then we could all be in a better situation.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But that's not the way the system is designed. And
Yeah.
we're operating within the matrix that we're in.
Yeah. And I will say this, and I know different people have different opinions. But my opinion is, for those that are in a position right now, meaning you are not completely poor, you may be middle class or you may be close to middle class. Those that are in a position, get your financial situation together. If your credit is poor, if you are in debt, but you do have income, get your credit and financial situation together. That is one thing that we can do as Black people to really empower ourselves. If for those who do not realize it yet, your credit is a source of freedom for you and your family and generations to come. Mm-hmm. Do your research on how this whole credit thing works. I have learned from people that I have met here in LA, and I have learned from doing my research how you are able to empower and build. I'm be real careful. How you can empower and build for your children before they know anything about it, and set them up way before they know what the word credit means. I'll leave it there. Do your research and make a plan, budget, get yourself out of debt. Stop trying to figure out, because information is out there. Stop trying to figure out how to dodge paying off your debts. Some people ain't gonna like that. Are there loopholes out there for that? Absolutely. That's for the rich. It's not for you. Mm-hmm. Because they will still come after you. Period.
It's real. And you know what? I want to do like a shameless plug of something that don't even have anything to do with me. But there is this movie that I encourage everybody to watch on Netflix, and it is called The Laundromat with Meryl Streep. And it talks about the financial game and how people in positions of power utilize loopholes at our expense. Mm-hmm. It is a fantastic movie. It is a fantastic movie, completely outside of the box in terms of what you envision a movie to be, especially a Meryl Streep type film. But I encourage you, The Laundromat, please look at it. It will open your eyes to a lot of things. Like, this is a game, and we're not playing the game. We're not teaching our kids about investing. We're not teaching our kids about assets versus liabilities. Yeah. We don't even Simple have saving. Life insurance. Yeah. We're having to set up GoFundMe accounts when people die. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, come on, y'all. Yeah. Life insurance is not that expensive.
Yeah, we're not talking about the people that are trying to figure out how to feed their children tomorrow. We're not talking about those people. We're not oblivious. I don't want anybody to think we're totally oblivious. We're talking about people who do have consistent incomes and are doing pretty okay, but you're mismanaging. You're totally mismanaging, and you are at the point where you're kind of just covering bills. You really do need to come up with a budget. You need to come up with a plan in terms of saving for each person individually and for your family as a unit. Again, do your research. You do not have to pay anyone for this. Does it take more time? Yes. Does it take more effort? Yes. But if you have more time than money, go with it. If you have more money than time, go with that. All I'm saying is you don't have to have money to do it. Yeah. I, for one, have done so much research in terms of credit, in terms of budgeting, in terms of investing, all of those things. And my husband and I have been able to make huge strides within the last couple of years in terms of our finances. And we ain't paid nobody to do nothing. We've researched, we've come together, we've prayed, we've tried this way, we've tried that way, until it's like, okay, something is working. And the bottom line that it comes down to, you got to get some of these debts out of the way. You got to figure out, how to play this credit game. How do you build better credit? And plugging people again, like you said, don't have nothing to do with me. Credit Karma, Credit Sesame. Free. Great information.
Yep. I agree.
We got to get it together. We have to get it together. And for those that are in a position to do those things we're talking about, once you're in that position and we can start investing in properties and we can have our own businesses, then that's when we are in a better position to help those who are a little worse off than us. We can give them jobs. We can go to them and say, hey, this is what I did, or I know this person that did X, Y, and Z. They will sit down with you for free to help you with your finances, or to help you with a job, or to help you with saving, or whatever it is. But you got to get yourself together first. Because if you have, and you're not doing what you should with what you have, you can't help nobody else. So that's why we have to hurry up and get ourselves together, so that we can go back and help those that are a little bit worse off than us. And we can do it ourselves. It doesn't have to be, but the government, but the government, the government. Now, we can still hold our government accountable because we are African Americans, but we have to, not focus so much on waiting for them and pushing them and prodding them. What can we do for ourselves and our community right now?
That's real. That's real. And I urge everybody, regardless of what category you feel like you're in, because you might feel like you're not in a position to save or to do the things that we're talking about. I still urge you to look at your budget. Pay attention to where your money is going. I can tell you that, I've been working where I've been working for 5 years now. And it wasn't until COVID, when I started working from home, that I realized that I was spending approximately $100+ a week on lunch, breakfast, snacks, coffee, whatever the case may be. So that's 400. Did I say a week? $100 a week. So that's $400 a month plus that I was spending on nonsense. You know what I mean? Where I could have made my coffee at home, cooked myself breakfast before I left the house, packed a lunch, you know what I mean, with snacks included. And that would have eliminated that expense. And so in staying home, that money is no longer, well, we ain't gonna talk about my Amazon packages. But anyway, it ain't being spent on things that I can't actually see later on. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're not gonna talk about that. And I'm gonna just say to my husband, I need you to just fast forward past that section of the video, and okay, now press play. Anyway, you'll be surprised at what money you actually do have.
Exactly.
Even if, and it doesn't have to be $400 a month that you find. It doesn't have to be that. You know what I mean? Even if it's $5, put it in a can somewhere out of sight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or when you go and make a purchase and they give you change back, put the change in a can. It can start on any scale, and as your financial situation improves, then you start putting more towards that, but it's about discipline. It's about awareness of what your actual situation is. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, just to piggyback on that, I handle the budgeting for us. And the thing is, it's like, a lot of times when you first look at your bills versus your income, you're like, I'm no mathematician. But there's more going out than coming in. And of course, sometimes that is very true. But then there are times when I'm sure for some people, you look at it and it's like, I don't understand why I have no money left. It's not an issue of there's more out coming in. So what's going on? And it could be the way that you are paying bills. And I remember having that conversation with my husband. He was like, what you mean? You just pay them. You're not understanding. It's about when you pay them. It's about you saying what bills are paid when, especially when you get paid every 2 weeks. It may sound complicated, but again, guys, do your research. I am no budgeting guru nor accountant. All I can say is that in my experience in doing my research and just kind of figuring out what works for us. We have improved our finances significantly. We're on a good track, and it's just a matter of doing just that. I have friends that I have helped with budgets before years ago, and they've told me they still follow it. And so find a friend, find somebody you know who's good at math, or ask them if they know someone. Look online, look for videos. YouTube, honey. YouTube probably has videos on how to draw a straight line. Okay. Just, I mean, if you can't find it on YouTube, honey, it's not in the universe. But, use the resources that you have. Don't be intimidated and say, well, I don't have the money to do X, Y, and Z. Just do your research and use what's out there for the information, and take initiative and just do it. Again, talk to your friends, talk to family, and see what information they have. Because a lot of times people just have information and they assume everybody else knows, right, and they don't. So.
And there's also templates online, like budget templates online that you can follow, and it's basically just fill in the information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So again, for those that have kind of come in late and they're like, what did they talk about exactly? Everything. Yeah. So again, this is just us, deciding, hey, let's just go ahead and put aside what we had planned for today, and, just kind of talk about our feelings about a whole lot of different things, prompted by, everything that's gone down at the Capitol today. So that prompted us to just really talk about the state of the Black community and Black family, and how we kind of need to stop focusing so much on the government and put focus back on what we can do in the Black community in terms of our Black family, finances, etc. Because, if the government cannot control their own selves, what are we to do? So,
real deal. Oh boy, I tell you.
So, unless there is another attempted coup next week, we will hopefully go back to continuing with our series that we were doing for our last two shows, which was Black Girl Magic, Smoke and Mirrors. So we may continue with that next week. But for this week, we thank you to everyone who listens, who comments, like, subscribe. Please continue to do that. We do appreciate you. We appreciate the feedback. There will be links below where you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and also on Facebook. And again, thank you for listening. Share, discuss, and we will see you all next time. Say bye, Madam Buddaphlai.
Love and light, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. Bye.